Okay, Paperthin, so how about you maybe just start off telling people, who you are and what you're known for?
Yeah, sure. My name is Clinton Paperthin Bader. I am a 35-year-old professional esports commentator living and working in Seoul, South Korea. I think most people know me from PUBG. I've been casting that for going on 3 or 4 years. I've lost count now. I think 3 years, 3 years. They're going on 3 years now. I've done like a lot of the big PUBG events, the PUBG Global Championship in 2019, PUBG Nations Cup. This year I'm doing the PGIS, which is the 2-month long big event going on right now. I'm now doing Valorant as well. I'm doing the Valorant Champions Tour, which is like the big global Valorant thing that's going on this year. I'm doing the Korea part alongside Achilleos, the awesome caster, does Overwatch League. And also Tasteless and Artosis are doing the league this year too, which is pretty sick. I did Valorant First Strike. I mostly do FPS titles. I've done a little like Crossfire and some other things. But I also do Summoner's War, which is like a mobile RPG kind of thing.
I
And
think
like
that's
it's a
where
gotcha.
sorry, I came
Yeah.
across some of your content was actually because I follow quite a lot of StarCraft stuff, and I'm pretty sure it was Tasteosis stuff had like retweeted some of your stuff or things like that, and I think that's how I came across quite a lot of your content. So that's a good interest. I didn't realize they'd picked up so much of like the PUBG content.
Yeah, and yeah, Tasteless has been doing PUBG with me, which is super exciting. I mean, he's great. He's such an amazing caster. He picks stuff up so fast. Like he's really a joy to work with. He's funny, he's smart. Just really awesome to have him on board for Korean PUBG or an Asian PUBG this year.
Hmm.
It's really excited about all that.
That's really cool. I didn't realize you did Valorant as well.
Yeah, just really started. I mean, I did First Strike, kind of like as a like I don't know if you want to call it a trial, but they had
Hmm.
seen my work on PUBG, and some of the people that had used to work at PUBG actually now work at Riot Korea, and so they knew me from that, and they wanted to give me a shot, and they liked what I was doing, and so here we go. Now I'm doing this whole thing.
That's cool.
It's this year. It's really exciting. Yeah.
Portfolio is just impressing. That's good. Um, so if we take a step back a little bit, so what was Clinton like, maybe as a kid? What video games did you
Mm.
grow up playing, and like what games sort of led you to the point where you're casting just now?
Sure. I mean, yeah, I mean, the first video game I'm pretty sure that I played was Super Mario Brothers. I got a Nintendo when I was like 5 or 6
Mm.
for Christmas. I mean, I still distinctly remember getting this Nintendo. That'll never leave me. Loved video games ever since. Growing up, I was big time into flight simulators.
Oh, okay.
I loved and like space flight simulators, like X-wing versus TIE Fighter. I loved Microsoft Flight Simulator, Ace of the Pacific, which was like a World War II. Like I was really big into that. I liked real-time strategy games well enough. I was not huge into them, but I liked to play StarCraft with my friends. And
Hmm.
when Brood War first came out, that was so fun. One of my friends' dads actually owned his own business and had like a LAN set up so we could go there after school and play a little bit, which was pretty cool. And yeah, I just always loved video games from the get-go. Just as soon as I got my hands on that Nintendo controller, dude, it was like love. It was just that's all I wanted to do, and much to the chagrin of my parents. And then I took apart my first Nintendo because I was also kind of a weird kid. So I got a screwdriver. I stole a screwdriver from my dad and took that thing completely apart. And they had to buy me a new one, but they weren't thrilled. But that's just kind of the way I was.
So was that you want to see
Yeah.
how it worked, sort of thing, or is that just you were just like I wanted just to break this open?
I wanted to see how it worked. I
Hmm.
wanted to be able to like take it apart, figure it out, and put it back together. Like that was kind of the, I guess, the thought process as when I was young. I really liked the ideas of like doing things with my hands, and I always like science too. So I was really
Hmm.
interested in like electronics or whatever. And I mean, I have a bachelor's degree in physics. Is actually
Oh, okay.
kind of all that how all that comes together. But yeah, I mean, competitive video game was something that was always in my blood too. Like going back to this, I did the first thing I kind of forgot about this for a time, but the first thing I ever really competed in was actually X-wing versus TIE Fighter. I
Oh,
was
that's
playing in
cool.
a competitive X-wing versus TIE Fighter league when I was in high school. So, as long as I can remember, just been loving video games and loved competing.
Hmm.
I'm a pretty competitive person. So
It's kind of cool getting the opportunity to chat to people that, again, a few of the podcasts in the past, people are like younger or up and coming professionals, some of them. So like, obviously, I consider myself a boomer. I'm like 31. So when I think about like, StarCraft LANs and things like that, it's so again, chatting to someone else, it's like, yeah, when you used to get with a group of your mates, you play like StarCraft, or you play these old school games in like a group, which is kind of sad, but you can still do the same, but it's like you're not connected online. Like it's just not the same. But yeah, I know, it's really cool. Like I wish you could see these old, like those tournaments, like those ones you were saying you were playing back then. You could go back and get those videos and like, those competitive scenes now. That'd be so much fun, man.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see exactly what was going on back when I was playing those games. And I think also, doing like consoles, having to go over to people's houses, that was the big thing, whether someone got an N64 when that came out and you go play Smash Brothers or GoldenEye or whatever, and all those different kind of things. And I mean, I remember when the Xbox first came out and I was in high school, and we were able to somehow finagle, 4 Xboxes together into one house and get 16 people there to play, 8v8 Halo. Back when that came out, that was super, super cool. Like those kind of like, they felt at the time really kind of like punk rock. Like you were just like cobbling things together with your friends. And even for me, it was hard because I lived in a small town of like 10,000 people. So, just getting enough people together was often very difficult as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's the GoldenEye as well. Even just hearing that being spoke about, it's like, did you ever have a game when you were a kid that like it was almost like your game? When you invited your mates around to play it, you knew fine well you were going to trash every single one of them in that game. It was almost like one game, but for me, like GoldenEye was the only one where I felt like I could actually play that to a decent extent. Anything else, I would just get trashed at.
Typically, I wasn't that great at GoldenEye. I wasn't great at Smash Brothers either. I was okay. I played NES, but I wasn't nearly as good as some of my friends. I got pretty good at Halo, and eventually when I was older, I got really, really damn good at Halo, and that was how I really kind of made my real first foray into esports. But I'll get into that later. But for me, I was really good at Homeworld, actually. Like that's 3D space real-time strategy game.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that, and I was pretty good at Mario Tennis, actually.
Oh man,
I loved Mario Tennis. I loved that game.
There's a couple of mates used to play that actually. It's like the Mario Tennis and like Diddy Kong, all that. I remember that was quite. I remember one of my mates used to be obsessed with the one where like you were flying airplanes and you had to take eggs from like one nest to another, and you could like pinch eggs off of people. That was like, that was like proper old school. I remember he'd just be obsessed with that one game like over and over again, and he just keep stealing your eggs. I was like, how's this enjoyable? But yeah. So yeah, take us from there. So these are the sort of games you're hanging around with your mates and playing. How then did you get into like more playing competitive style games or going online and playing people?
Yeah, so I went to college and I kind of didn't do much with games for a while. I don't want to say I was focused on school because that would never be true in my life. But I had other interests. I was really into music. I was trying to decide if I was actually going to major in oboe performance. I had a scholarship to play the oboe at university.
Oh, that's impressive.
Or physics, and I ended up going with physics eventually. But there was a time in my life where music was really important to me, so I was really into that. But about halfway through college, I just kind of decided that I wasn't really into the music thing. And I was doing physics, but it was kind of whatever. And I started playing Halo 2 quite a bit, and then I was really enjoying it. And then I decided, like, when Halo 3 was going to come out, which was, like, right after I graduated university, I was like, I'm going to get a nice TV, get a great setup, and just go for it. And I just really wanted to compete in video games. I really wanted to compete in something, and I felt like that was going to be like my chance to give it a go. So I spent probably a year and a half, 2 years just playing as much Halo 3 as humanly possible. And went to a couple MLG events and didn't do that well. I mean, like I said, I think I've said in the past, I think the best we finished was like 52nd. Out of like 200 some odd teams, which is, whatever. But I was never great. But I just loved competing. I loved going to the events, loved seeing what was going on. I watched esports, and then I was watching a ton of Brood War when Tasteless was first coming out here watching on Gulm TV and those kind of things. And so like I was just sleeping and breathing esports for a while there. And that's really, really when I went way into the deep end.
Go into it. See, MLG is like I remember that as like the start of me watching esports, and again, Halo 3 was like one of the first person shooters where I'd watch people like Snipe Down and people like that just destroying people, and I was like, I could really get into this. And although I was horrifically bad at first person shooters, I really enjoyed watching people, shit on other people. That was really good. And then obviously the RTS, like StarCraft, was an MLG too, and that's when for me it started to realize like this is going to be something that's like huge. Like I can really get into this, But that's really cool. I didn't realize you'd competed into the Halo 3 scene. That's really cool. So did you continue competing after that, or?
No. So after I want to say about 2 years, I'll give it 2 years just because I'm actually not entirely sure. But the team I was playing on kind of fell apart, and I kind of moved on to a new job, and I was making a bit more money doing IT. And kind of for me, things were like I was maybe trying to get more serious. I joined a band. I was playing bass guitar in a rock band for like a year and a half, and we were like not really touring, but we were playing around our local Midwest area where I grew up in America. And so I kind of had other interests that kind of took over for a while. And I was still playing tons of video games. I was playing League of Legends right away when that came out as soon as I could.
Okay.
Played that for hardcore for like 2 years. But I kind of lost the esports bug, I guess, even though I was watching and stuff. Like the competing aspect had faded away as I was interested in trying other stuff for a little while.
Mm-hmm. Seems like you've dipped into quite a few different genres of like, games you play in. So again, for me, it's mostly just like MOBAs, RTSs, and then if I play first persons, I don't enjoy them because I'm so terrible at them on PC, But that's really cool. So how did you decide that like PUBG was going to be like the game? I'm assuming you played quite a bit of PUBG as well as obviously the casting.
Sure. So I moved to Korea. I was kind of fed up with a lot of things with my life in America, and I decided to make a huge change. So I mean, I've had friends that have lived in Korea, some of them for 12, 13 years or whatever, and I'd visited here a couple times. I'd spent a lot of time in Japan on vacation as well, and it was kind of like I really loved it out here. I really felt comfortable even on my own. And so I decided, well, I'm going to move to Korea. And so I was in Korea. I was actually teaching English for a little while, and then PUBG comes out, and I'm playing the hell out of it. Like, as soon as I could get my hands on PUBG, I was just so desperate to play this game. I'm like, this is everything I've ever wanted in a video game. Like, so many people battling, like 100 people battling at once. That was just so cool to me, so crazy. I'm like, finally, the technology's here. Like, we can have this thing that when I was a kid, you dreamed of having this many people playing one game at a time, right? This huge epic battle, all these stories that come out of it. So I was in love, and I was actually working for Africa TV on the side, kind of part-time, doing some proofreading and things like that for them. And that's how they found out that I was playing a ton of PUBG, and they were going to start their own league, and they ended up needing like a caster who knew the game, and I at that point probably had about 700 hours in the game, and in a couple months I just did nothing but play it. And so I made a demo tape for them. They really liked it, and away I went.
Oh, that's incredible. So again, it's quite a lot. Whenever I'm talking to someone in the past, people seem to be quite interested of how they cross that like barrier from like playing the game consistently to like a caster. So that's quite interesting. So you didn't actually like specifically target that. It just got to the point where you were doing stuff for them and you thought, this is something I can do.
Yeah, it was just kind of the opportunity came and I jumped on it. They were telling me, they were like, yeah, we're thinking about starting a PUBG league. In the person I was working with at the company's like, you play a lot of this game, right? And I'm like, I love this game. I absolutely adore it. And I was like, and they're like, okay, well, we need a caster, and we don't really have anybody who knows the game that well. Put together a demo tape if you're interested. So I did, and yeah, I mean, for me, it wasn't, and it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, public speaking isn't a big deal to me. Performing in front of people isn't a big deal to me. Like I said, I played the oboe. I did forensics in high school, which is like competitive public speaking, and those kind of things just never bothered me. So it's easy to be on camera, and I just enjoyed it. It never made me nervous ever to be on camera or anything like that. Actually, the thing that made me the most nervous the very first day was getting makeup put on. Like, that
Oh,
actually
really?
made me more nervous than doing the broadcast itself. So it's pretty. It was kind of like a right place at the right time, and I mean I already loved living in Korea. I didn't want to leave anyway, so kind of all works out very well in the end.
You definitely have a good voice for projection, I think, for casting. The videos I was watching leading up to doing this as well, like it's like you've got a very clear voice and loud voice without having to like. It's hard to describe it. When you get some people casting, it's almost like they're shouting to get their voice across. Whereas like people who just have like a natural toned voice like yours, it comes across really natural almost, you know. It's almost a weird compliment, but
well, I think my neighbors wouldn't agree that it's a good thing. But the walls are a little thin, but no, I think like part of it is that also I worked on my voice. Like so one of my best friends here is a voice actor.
Oh, cool.
In fact, I don't know if so. Anyway, one of my best friends here is actually the voice of Daddy Shark.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. So
that's a good.
He's quite the story to tell, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah. So he's a professional voice actor here, and he helped me, especially initially. Like I already had I could speak and that kind of thing, but really helped me learn how to project and naturally do all those things so it doesn't sound forced, right?
That's really cool. That's quite a good bragging right of like, people going to a bar and you're like, oh, I know the guy, I know this famous actor, this famous actress. You're like, I know the guy does the voice for Daddy Shark. Man, that's props.
Pretty cool. He's a fucking amazing guy too. He's one of the funniest, kindest dudes. And it's pretty interesting and the whole situation that led up to that, but that could be its own. We'll leave that aside, 'cause that could really be its own story.
I maybe should start with this as well, because I've started to said like PUBG. Can you like sort of explain to people? Obviously, I'll know, but like what PUBG actually is, like the type of game it is and things.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So PUBG is a first-person shooter or third-person, but competitively it's played in a first-person only mode that is in many people. Fighting at once, and there's in competitive PUBG it's 16 teams at once of 4 people on a team, so 64 players total in one map. There's one big map, and the plane flies over. You all get to parachute, drop into various locations, grab some loot, grab some guns, backpacks, grenades, various other equipment. You fight it out. Last team standing wins, and so that's the basics of it.
Describe it.
Try to use your guns and grenades and even vehicles. There's vehicles in the game to try to outlast everyone, and there's a circle that closes throughout to force the fighting.
I used to always use like what's the film again? Hunger Games. I used to always describe like that because again, if some of my parents would never really understand it if I said it's a battle royale game. They're like, what does that mean? So you'd be like, right, remember the film Hunger Games? It's like that, but not real life.
Yes.
It's just games,
Yeah, or if you're a real fucking nerd, like you watched Battle Royale, the Japanese movie.
Oh yeah, that's so weird. Actually, I haven't thought of that in ages. It was like, it's like you got like a random weapon. Is that not what it was? I remember like I was at school. Someone had like a pirate copy of it. I remember, and it was like a really gory film. I think I was quite young when I watched it, so it was like really badass to have a hold of it. That's funny, man.
It's a great movie, actually. It's really quite interesting and really emotional. I like if you don't find it too cheesy.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great movie. I liked it well before the game came out. Like I'd watched it a long time ago. I was kind of a weeb for a while there, so like I watched a lot of Japanese culture and entertainment. So
that's really cool. So like PUBG just now, what do you think of like say the current state of the game just now? Do you think it's in a good place, or would you make like any serious changes to the game if you could?
I think we're in a really good place, actually. Everything seems to be trending up again for PUBG. I mean, it's been, of course, with how big it was initially, it had nowhere to go but down. Like any big game, like it doesn't matter what game it is eventually going to have a downswing if it gets caught, if it catches fire like that. And so, but I think now, like they're doing a really good job with the game. They've done a fucking amazing job with their esports, like, and the roadmap they have laid out for us is incredible. Like the leagues and the third party tournaments and the big tournaments, everything is like really cool. It's going to be a ton of awesome PUBG sports action this year, and I'm not just saying that, I actually mean it. And I think for the game itself, it's in a great spot. There's a few minor things I would change. They did make an interesting change recently where it's easier to shoot from vehicles than it used to be. It used to be really hard to shoot from vehicles because you would bounce a lot, and so it was hard to. In the PUBG, naturally, it's really hard to control the recoil on the guns.
Yep.
That's what kind of makes it really interesting to me. But they made it a lot easier to shoot from vehicles, and so in the pro scene, that's had some interesting consequences. I don't want to say it's 100% bad yet, but it kind of is a little too easy for these incredibly talented players to shoot each other from cars. So there might need to be a little change with that, but outside of that, I think it's quite fun. But for the average user, it's quite fun to be able to shoot from those vehicles and like do drive-bys and stuff. So
yeah, so
there's a balance, right?
Yeah, if you're like an average gamer, it's probably pretty good. But if you're like on top tier ranked, people are probably just getting cleaned up.
Yeah, they get a little frustrated.
Another thing I noticed when watching a couple of your casts was the actual control of the game. So if you're casting something like StarCraft, obviously your camera position's still important, but it's relatively easy to stay on top of like someone's fighting, someone's doing something in their base. The control side of your camera angles and going into a point of view, that seems like it's actually quite complicated. How do you stay on top of that?
Yeah, so when I do it myself, I'd say it's just, you just kind of learn, you know the map so well, you know where teams are likely to fight each other, where they're likely to run into each other. Because of the way the terrain and things like that work, you just kind of learn the natural paths and progressions that teams are going to take. Now, for a big-time event, for like a professional level event, you're talking about a team of observers, anywhere from 8 to 12 or whatever. I don't even know how many people they use sometimes these days. They have, a lot of observers, and then they have like one guy who's kind of in control of all of them, and he's directing, which camera, which observer to look at a time. So they're able to bounce around much more quickly and much more effectively in those situations. So as a caster, my job is to just sit there and watch what they do. And I watch the map as well. Like we always have a map feed up so we can see what all the teams are doing.
Okay. That's mad. So yeah, if you're casting it live, obviously people are controlling it and you're just reacting to the spots they put you in essentially, is that right?
Correct, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. And so what about you said you play PUBG as well. Are you quite a high ranked player when you're not, casting, or no?
No. I mean, when I started, I was pretty gung-ho and pretty serious and better than I am now. The problem was over time, because I was casting and really focusing on making that kind of career happen. And I'm also still like focused on trying to get better at Korean, for example, learning Korean and doing a few things as well to make my life just, improve my quality of life. Yeah, exactly. And so for that, I just haven't had the time to play. Like to be frank, to really put in the hours I would need to grind. So like I understand how to make good decisions in the game. My recoil control, for example, isn't that good because I just haven't had the time to sit down and really practice the mechanics of moving the mouse. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I'm not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm not, like a high rank player.
I think the amount of time you've got to put into it, I can imagine as well playing in like Korean servers could also potentially be like a different level, man.
They're crazy good here, dude. They're crazy good.
Yeah, it's like whenever you see because the pro scenes I probably follow the most are probably StarCraft and League of Legends, and when you talk about the League of Legends players swapping onto different servers, they all talk about they always talk about some like Chinese intense server, and they talk about a super server, that's it, and they talk about like the Korean servers being like your challenger in one, but you're probably like diamond on or masters on Korea,
Dude, even the ARAM games here, I play ARAM from time to time with my friends. Just I think it's a fun like kind of whatever mode to play League of Legends, and it's like ridiculous how good they are. I just get crushed, and I'm like, I don't even know.
Yeah, gaming for fun is just not part of the vocabulary. It's just destroy at all costs, man. Yeah.
Truly. And then you get flamed by them if you suck, and that's really not fun. And you're like, I don't even.
I just want to chill and play an ARAM with my mates. Like, come on.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
So, I mean, other than PUBG, what other esports do you follow? Any others or?
I mean, yeah, Valorant, CS:GO, like a lot of first-person shooters. I'm not too into Halo these days. It just kind of, if it was still Halo 3, I suppose I'd be pretty
Facts,
more
definitely.
interested. But it is, it is kind of moved on with life. I actually do really enjoy Summoner's War. I cast that
Oh,
and
cool.
play it now a ton as well. So I actually do find that quite interesting. I watch a ton of StarCraft actually.
Oh, cool.
I'm a huge Brood War fan.
Yes.
I
So it's original StarCraft
grew
more
up.
than
Oh,
StarCraft 2.
yeah, I like it better than StarCraft 2. I do watch some StarCraft 2. Like, I'll always watch Super Tournament and
Hmm.
GSL versus the World and the GSL finals. I always watch, and like I'm kind of friends with like Special here, for example,
Oh,
and
that's
he's a
cool.
super cool guy. And I always root for the foreigners that come here and
Yeah.
play. And so I'm into that. I'm into a lot of esports that are popular in Korea. I kind of am into League of Legends, but not much. I watch
Hmm.
Worlds every year, of course, because that's like you have to, right?
Yeah.
That's like
It's everywhere.
it's
Yeah.
like the World Cup, right? Like you have to watch it. So,
Yeah.
um, and some of my best friends are league casters here, so I gotta stay up to date with
Got
it.
support. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah,
But like,
exactly.
I think like Brood War's still more popular in Korea, isn't it, than
Yeah,
StarCraft 2? Yeah, I remember someone saying that. I think it was
big time.
yeah, I did the podcast with Crichton Olsen. I was chatting to him about it, and he was saying the
Oh, I
same.
love Creighton, dude. Yeah.
He's so sound, and honestly, yeah, he was just chatting about it, and he was. I think I was looking through old videos, and there was once he was in the crowd of GSL, and I think Tasteless, or was it Artosis? I can't remember what. I think one of them basically went into the crowd or was like chatting to the crowd, like saying, "Who do you think's going to win?" And like the Korean guy just said, like, "Oh, I think Protoss is going to win," but something really simple. And then Crichton just went off, and obviously not knowing that he was like this really big caster or like was really into StarCraft, just gave this huge explanation of like he's going to win because of this and because of this and because of this and this, and he was just like, "Wow, okay, this guy really knows his stuff." Really knows his stuff. I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." But yeah, man, going
And
across. Oh, sorry.
no. I was gonna say, and by the way, Creighton killed it when he was doing some StarCraft casting. He was. I got to hang out with him a couple times. I still talk to him from time to time, even though he's back in America. Great guy, really nice and fantastic caster. Another guy who just like was a natural, just
Hmm.
came in there and killed it. Killed it, I thought. But yeah, it is really interesting. Like StarCraft One, for ASL before coronavirus, I would try to go to the finals every time, and I mean they would sell out 2,000, 3,000 person stadiums. I mean, no problem.
That's
I mean, it's
mental.
just insane.
It's
Yeah.
insane. It's still on the bucket list of things to go. Unfortunately, there's just nowhere you can really travel to at the moment. So, but yeah, going there's like I've done things like DreamHack, a few of those like tournaments like that. But yeah, I've watched quite a lot of the Crichton stuff, and it's really good because again, I'd seen like maybe a few videos. He wasn't super well known, and the more and more I see him, he's really good. And one thing that was quite interesting was maybe kind of similar to your friend who's like the voice actor. He said that he
Yeah.
wasn't a massive player in StarCraft, but he did a lot of like acting classes growing up and things like that, and that sort of helped him like get the confidence to do all the cast inside of it. And he's really good at actually getting his point across. And someone to have that kind of knowledge without being a player is quite rare, I think.
No, it is. It is. It is often like you can see it as much as you want, but not playing it, not feeling it with your hands is very different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like anytime you play any game, it really helps to feel it with your hands, to really know what the players are going through, to really experience it. But, I don't think you have to. I've always felt like this. You don't have to do that
Mm-hmm.
to be a good caster. There's so much more that's involved in being a good caster than playing the game, than knowing the game. I mean, of course you have to, but being able to articulate it in interesting ways and in short, concise ways is very important. Having a good voice, there's so much more to it. It's really an art that takes a lot of time and practice that I think is oftentimes a little underappreciated with vocal people on the internet that would rather just have somebody who really can like break things down analytically. And I think for me, I'm like, well, yes, I mean, we can do that, but that's what YouTube videos are for, right?
Yeah.
Like, during a cast, there's more important things that need to be taken care of. So.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's definitely like because you'll often see professional players. They come out of their career when they're retiring and they'll become casters. But like if some of them just aren't like that social barrier is like not there for them sometimes. So like you can tell the knowledge in their head is insane, but they just can't project it to people. And I think finding both must be so difficult. I think like there's still sometimes I'll watch StarCraft, and I think that's why Tasteless and Artosis work so well. Is whenever I'm watching them, they'll point out stuff I'm like, there's no way I would have seen that. And yet during like a lull, they'll be just talking about comic books and creasing about movies or something, you know. So it's so easy to watch, and yet they also know the game inside out, you know. That's like, I mean, yeah, and
well, they're the best.
As I always say, they're probably the exception. You know?
They're so good. It's just incredible. I mean, every day I'm just, you know, I watch them and I just love it. I mean, I'm in awe. They're just so fun. They're great people too. I mean, now they're good friends of mine as well, and just funny guys, just naturally just hilarious guys. Just, you know, when you're hanging around them, you're just always laughing, and they're great on cast. And yeah, I mean, they have something so special, so unique that they were also pros at their game, right, at one time, and they were able to transfer that into being amazing casters on top of it. That is really hard to do.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It was a couple of years ago. I think it was like a day 9. I think it was like his 100th episode or something. And he was talking about how like he grew up with his brother, how they used to always play games, and how they used to play StarCraft. And then they would talk about the old tournaments. And I think there's a couple of YouTube videos that someone put live years ago of like them playing in the original, like, I think it was called like World Cyber Games, and they're playing Brood War.
Yeah, WCG, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And oh my god, man, just looking at them all like back then with the fucking big CRT monitors, and oh man, it just you can't help but like smile at it, 'cause it's just the beginning of like esports, you know, essentially. So yeah. It's funny, man.
It's wild, the history that's out there that's just kind of on tape that at the time you wouldn't have thought about it. And I know for, you know, talking to Nick about it, he's, you know, he didn't really understand it. He just wanted to play StarCraft, just wanted to compete and win. You know, he had to drive down to Texas with his brother and, you know, spend all their money and, you know, convince their mom to let him go.
Yeah.
At times, you know, stuff like this. Like,
yeah.
You know, it's just crazy. Or, you know, when he's in college, he's, you know, leaving college for weekends at a time to go play. And he's, you know, trying to balance that aspect. So it was the Wild West, man. It was quite a time.
I mean, you must relate as well, like being from a place with like, was it 10,000 people? You said it's similar. Yeah. Like, there's no one here that is like especially back in the day, there was no one playing games. You'd have to travel so far. I'd probably have to go, like back then, like you'd have to travel to like London, which no one's doing like a 10-hour drive to do that, you know, or flight, you know. So that's just what you had to do. So it's the dedication, willing to drive hours to all these tournaments, you know. But yeah, sorry, I did mention like coronavirus there. I feel like it's almost, you're obligated to say it, otherwise it's, you know, it's just everywhere. Everyone's chatting about it. So it's like, is this before coronavirus? Have they haven't even mentioned it, you know? So yeah, how was coronavirus and like lockdown situations like affected you, you know, like throughout things?
I think we've been lucky here in Korea that it's never been that bad, but there has been kind of a social acceptance, I guess would be the way I'd phrase it here, that wearing masks and social distancing and all this other, right from the get-go, was the right thing to do. Because they've dealt with other pandemics in the past, like SARS and other things, that they were kind of ready for it. I mean, literally in December of 2019, right before all this happened, they had run like a huge 3-week-long like mock, outbreak scenario. So they were very ready for it. So it's never been too bad here in terms of like my personal life. I mean, there is a lockdown sort of in effect right now where you're limited to group size and how late you can stay out and all this other stuff, which is fine. I mean,
you have curfews, do you?
Yeah, we do, sort of. Like you can stay out. Just restaurants and bars and stuff can't be open past 9 p.m.
Right. So. Okay. Yeah, I get you.
But professionally, I've mostly been pretty lucky that, like, there are small studios that I've been able to work at that literally it's like me, the other caster, and a producer, so we're able to keep the numbers very low, and that's the only people I see and interact with. So really, as long as we're all taking it seriously and social distancing, we have a very low risk, and so for that aspect, it's been pretty good. And now for the PGIS, of course, we can't fly all the casters everywhere. I mean, they brought the players to Korea, but the players are completely stuck at a hotel.
So they're quarantined,
basically. Like, they can leave and go around the little area around the hotel, but they're not allowed to leave. Like, so Incheon Airport's on an island, actually, and they're not allowed to leave that island.
Oh, really? Wow. That's quite strict.
So, yeah, it's very strict. But, yeah, so all the casters were able to do it from home, which is fantastic in a way. I mean, like, I'd rather, of course, be there. There's something to being at an event that's much more exciting and interesting, but regardless, it's nice to be able to do it with people from all over the world, from America and Europe as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I
that's
can imagine
cool. That's
that
really
you
cool.
sort of play off the atmosphere a bit in some of these tournaments, and if the crowds aren't there, I mean, I'm sure it's still obviously exciting, but you're almost trying to get people hyped with no like hype aura, almost,
It's hard to generate that, right? It almost feels fake, like
Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to, but if you feel it yourself, like you just try to express that. You're like, okay, I know this is cool. Like it's time for me to really latch onto this and make it something.
Yeah, I think that's almost a talent in itself as well, though, because like if you get, especially newcasters, you'll often see people. Again, I'll just use StarCraft as an example, and like two people are going to fight, and it'll potentially be like a lower level game. You've almost got to judge whether you can just be like, oh my god, this is a fight, and you're getting really excited, or if it's just like, you've got almost like, it's going to sound really fake if you just try and make it out to be the most exciting thing ever, and it's like a Division 4 group stage that no one really cares about, but you still got to make it sound semi exciting,
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's always those games that, I mean, even so last year I did a PUBG tournament that was for a local like city district, I guess is the best way to put it, and here in Korea, and they were hosting this event, trying to kind of make their city like an esports hub here in Korea. So they're showing that they can put on events, and so they hired me and another guy to do the global broadcast. We did it on my stream and stuff. And even for that, I still wanted to make sure I gave a good performance. Like, the players deserve it. Like, these are amateur players who are just coming and competing and trying to, showcase their abilities. And so for them as well, it's giving them that benefit of, we're here, we're doing a job. Let's make it look good for everybody,
That's really cool. So we're just chatting about like COVID and like health and stuff there. So I did say earlier, like my stream and podcast have a bit of a fitness element to it. What do you sort of do? Is there anything you do to try and look after yourself or keep yourself healthy?
Yeah. So I kind of let myself go there for a little bit. Like when the whole casting thing started for me, like my life just got so crazy, and I wasn't doing the best. I really like to walk though. I love to go for walks. Like one of my favorite things to do is like explore, whatever that means, like on foot. I like to just see things and experience it. So for me, Seoul's wonderful because there's great walking paths and parks, and we're right. Seoul is kind of divided by a river, so there's a great park that runs the entire river. So you can just go down there and walk, and I live very close to that, and I love to just walk around the city and just see the buildings and the sights and everything. So I was starting to I was kind of getting, to the point where I was like, all right, I got to start losing some weight. I got to get in a little better shape. I mean, I've always lifted weights a little bit too, but not a lot. And I was like, all right, so I started rollerblading with Atlas, the
cool.
League of Legends broadcaster down at the park, and in the end of May, early June last year, we were down there, and it had been raining, and I hadn't really thought about this, and I went to stop in the grass, and the grass was mud, and I didn't fully process that in my brain, so my left leg went in first, just stopped. The rest of my body kept going, and I fractured my tibia, and then my ACL actually ripped the top of my tibia off. So God. I had to have 4 screws put in my knee to fix all that. So I've been recovering from that. So I haven't been able to get out as much as I would like. I've been able to walk and stuff again, but I only have about probably 30 minutes to an hour before it hurts too much, where I have to kind of...
That's a good excuse to just chill and play video games though as well. You're like, my knee's pretty done, so...
But I have actually taken my diet a lot more serious. I've actually lost probably about 6 or 7 kilos now. Just really just taking it easy. Like, even though I couldn't leave my bed basically for 3 months, I really just was like, all right, this is a good opportunity. Like, all my friends warned me. They're like, you're going to get fat. You're not doing anything. You're just going to order delivery food all day, every day. And I was like, you know what? That's a really good point. So I took it a little bit more serious. I didn't really do a lot of cooking, but I did like I'd order more healthy meals, I guess is the best way to put it.
Okay.
And Yeah, so I still love to walk, and I can't wait. I'm getting better and better as time goes on, and I can start riding my bike again pretty soon, which is something else I like to do.
Yeah.
I like to do a little hiking here in Korea. We have mountains, and it's
Yeah,
really
that's
a
really
beautiful
cool. Yeah.
country. There's actually a lot of, even though Korea is like one of the most densely populated countries in the world, there still is actually a lot of nature here and a
Like
lot of cool
countryside,
stuff
yeah.
to see. Yeah, it's lovely, just wonderful, and I highly recommend coming here. And there's bike paths that run the whole country that you can bike from Seoul to Busan, and it
Oh, that's
takes
really
like
cool.
four or 5 days.
I said there's not
I mean,
enough reasons to already come to Seoul, Korea, and now you've got nice countryside as well. Yeah, it's the same here.
Yeah,
There's quite a lot of like really nice like mountainsides and things like that up here to watch, but sorry, go see. But just now with lockdown, it's so strict here that like you're not supposed to go within 5 miles of where you live. So like
really.
yeah, it's really strict. I think the UK is really bad. I think they're like one of the worst per capita just now. So like it's really rough. I think like England and Wales are really bad. So people don't like doing what they're told here, and we're like I think in Asia it's like generally quite common practice to wear a mask if you're ill anyway, isn't it? Like even if
Yes.
it's not a pandemic, like you. Whereas here, yeah, there's a lot of
No,
you're not telling me what to do kind of attitude, and it's yeah. So
that's very similar to America. Yes.
yeah, so that's a bit of a pain, but yeah, it's the same now. I mean, the start of lockdown now was very much like walking's great. It's the only cardio really I would do because I'm not a fan of it. But now, because I've been doing it for like a year, just walking round about where I live, I'm like, I want to go do real things now. Like I'm fed up walking, you know.
Oh,
So,
I understand.
but that's good. It's been staying on top of your diet, especially when you've gone through like an injury. I started going the opposite way. I tore my shoulder a while back and had surgery on it, and it was almost because I wasn't working out, I couldn't motivate myself to eat properly, so I just sat and gained a ton of weight. And then as soon as I was done, I was like, right, that's it. I'm gonna sort everything out again, you know. So that's really good to stay on the motivation train while you're sitting injured.
Well, I was lucky. I had some friends that were very adamant about warning me about it. So that I really took that to heart, and I was like, yeah, let's ease up a little bit. Let's cut back on the bad food. You cut back on the alcohol a little bit as well, and like let's really
Yeah, that's a big one. Cutting
lose
back
a
on
little
the
bit of weight.
booze.
Yes, don't get me wrong. I still love beer and whiskey, but it's a little less often now.
What is it? That's another thing as well. In Korea, what is like it's maybe a weird question, but like the drinking culture in Korea, is it like, because especially in the UK, it's very much, and in Scotland, it's like almost binge drinking. Like no one really drinks in the house too much, but maybe once every 3 weeks you'll get drunk essentially, or every 2 weeks or whatever.
Oh, totally. Oh, it's out of control here.
Is
I mean,
it?
And that's kind of something I do actually kind of like in a way, like the freedom to just kind of be able to go out and have a good time with your friends and drink a lot of soju, which is the kind of national drink of Korea
Okay.
here. And you will see every time you go out to a restaurant, every single table has alcohol on it. Like every single table has a bottle of soju or some beer or whatever. So that's just the culture, and binge drinking is huge here.
Is it?
I mean, it is perfectly normal to just see dudes just drunk out in the streets, just stumbling around and throwing up or whatever. And that's kind of I kind of like that rough and tumbleness. That's something I do actually. I like the ability to have that freedom to just kind of let loose every once in a while.
Yeah.
And but it is pretty significant here, the amount of drinking. So I think you wouldn't feel too out of place here if compared to Scotland.
Well, it's definitely like, I think it's like the UK, like America, like Australia, that sort of like places I've experienced where it's just binge drinking culture, like not really casually drinking when you eat or whatever. I'm sure folk do, sorry, but like it's just, especially younger, it seems to be like out drunk. Like there's no in between. It's on or off, So it's that's pretty good. But as if I didn't eat
Pretty
any
normal
more.
here, yeah.
That's really cool. So just moving on. So what's like the future sort of like for Paperthin? What are you wanting to continue just casting the games you're casting, or you wanting to try and branch out into more things? How does it sort of look?
I mean, I think for me, I'm in a really good spot. This is going to be a great year, like with the contracts I've signed and what I'm doing, and this is going to be my best year ever, like by far. And I'm really, really excited about that. I love PUBG. I don't ever want to stop doing that. I'm really enjoying Valorant now. Getting into a tactical shooter is really exciting. I love Counter-Strike when I was younger, particularly CS Source. I played a fuck ton of that when I was in college. And so like I was never serious competitive about Source. I just like to play on like Dust 2 all the time.
Oh yeah, okay.
No AWP, no auto, full money. You could just do whatever you wanted. But
that's cool.
Yeah, but I think for me now, it's like I'm really in a really good spot. I'm doing a tactical shooter. I'm doing a battle royale PUBG, and for me, that's like all my time. Like that is, and I do a lot of streaming now. I've been doing really good with covering PUBG scrims as much as I can, so that's exciting. And for me, I just want to keep building my brand, keep doing what I do. I love casting. I want to do it the rest of my life. I mean, that's really all there is to it. I think the other wonderful thing I think about broadcasting in general for esports or whatever is that you could do it till you don't want to.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, Larry King, unfortunately just passed away, but he was 80 something, and he was still doing his amazing show. I mean, to me that's the dream here. Like, I never want to stop doing stuff. Like, I never want to stop learning or creating, and broadcasting is a way to create, and so for me it's something that I want to do until I can't. That's
actually kind of weird to think about. Of the like just saying Larry King there, you're thinking, because obviously games are still essentially babies, to think that you're going to have these like 8-year-old casters, just being like, that's amazing. That's just just to think of these people commentating on games, being like, and then making references to like, oh, I remember when Brood War was out. That's what it's gonna be like, man.
Someday I'm gonna have a cane and I'm gonna point it at some kid. And be like, back in the day, we only had 2 buttons on our controllers.
pretty much, man. That's it. So I've also done, so when I stream, I normally just say, like, I'm going to have a podcast guest on. Is there any questions you want to ask? So I've got, like, I normally just call it a quick fire question round.
Yeah,
if you're okay for us to answer them.
Please.
But, again, whenever I say it, some people will, like, answer the questions really quickly. Like, you can actually go in depth with them. It's fine, but they're completely random. So,
sure.
So, first one is, who's your favorite streamer?
That's tough. I have a lot of really fun streamers that I like. For PUBG, I really like Shrimzy. He's a US-based professional player. He's really funny. He's really talented. There's a lot of great PUBG pros throughout the world that I love to watch. Under is a Korean one who I would highly recommend. I like just people who are funny, who are good at games. I mean, if you got those 2 things, then I'm going to be watching you.
It.
So, yeah, PUBG streamers, I'll give them some shout-outs because they're the ones I watch the most.
Do you have any insider caster like tips of like who's going to be a good up-and-comer to like watch out for in PUBG?
Well, now they've already made a pretty big splash, but the Sonics, which is a US-based team, have been playing very well with Shrimzy and Tiggleton and these guys who are incredible. Up-and-coming... It's hard to say. There is a player in Korea named Salvia, which I don't know why he picked this name. I don't know where he got this, but he's really, really good. He's an up and coming Korean player that I'm thinking of that I know is really talented. And there's a lot of really good players that are starting to make their way through. Like, now that there's now that it's clear that PUBG is serious about esports and it's not going away, and there's money to be made, there's a lot of people taking it very seriously.
Yeah, people coming out the woodwork. That's good. That's what you want to see, is it? That's cool. I mean, yeah, because I always feel like if I take on a new sport or an esport to watch, I don't like picking up a team or supporting somebody or a player that is already at the top. I quite like getting an underdog that's going to potentially come through the ranks. So if I'm getting into something like PUBG, I'd like to know like who's the up and comer that I'm going to be looking at, So that's good.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I'll try to think about that. Yeah. There's so many players in PUBG, it's hard to keep track. So
yeah, there's no way to say that. It's a lot easier if you're just like, again, StarCraft 2 players. You're like, this guy's good, watch him. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
What TV shows are you watching just now?
Let's see. I watched The Expanse. I love The Expanse. So good. What else am I watching? I'm going through like a lot of I'm going through like a crime documentary phase. I really, really like documentaries right now, and I don't know where this came from, but like all of a sudden on Netflix, I'm watching a lot. Like any Netflix documentary, I'm like, yes, let's watch this.
Let's watch
so,
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been really into those, but The Expanse is like my favorite show on TV right now, hands down.
That's cool.
That's such a good show. I've been rewatching The Good Place, which I think is just a really funny, smart, kind of heartwarming at times show. Highly recommend that. Also on Netflix. So Netflix stuff, and I don't watch too much like anime these days or anything, so I'm not well versed on what's good. Watching the last season of Attack on Titan though, you can't miss that.
Yeah, so I say it's some. I mean, the animes. I feel like again, I do like watching them, but they have to really. It sounds bad, but if they get a few good reviews, someone says it's good. I hate investing a lot of time into an anime, and I'm like, this is only okay, and I just get bored with it, sort of thing. Yeah. So I need a good few reviews before I'm like, right, let's give this a watch.
Yeah, My Hero Academia is fun too.
Oh, love that. Yeah.
Show that's like fun to watch and just exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
The Expanse, if I could convince you to watch one show, it's The Expanse.
It's Expanse. Okay, that's a good one. I'm actually going to mark that here because I'm going to forget. So I'm wanting to actually like remember to watch this here. I'm always worried though, like especially with Netflix, because I'm the same. Just now, I've been watching quite a lot of like murder or drug related documentaries. So I'm really worried that if someone looks at my history, they're gonna be like, right, this guy's like some kind of organized murderer, drug dealer dude. So yeah, a bit worried about that.
Dude, this is me 100%. I'm exactly the same. Like The Staircase, which is the one about an author. That was so good. But yeah, I love these things.
The one that I sort of missed, I think, when it came out, I can't remember what his first name is. It's like something Hernandez. He's like an NFL football player. So I just watched
Aaron Hernandez. Yeah.
So I generally will only watch stuff like that when I'm eating, which is quite a lot. But it's I just watched the first one of that. It's like making a murderer, all that stuff. So
Making Murder.
That's good.
Mindhunter for like
Mindhunter. I really like that. I got quite disappointed when they said they're stopping it. Apparently they're not making it anymore.
I know, dude. I'm so sad about that. It's such a good show.
Anyway. I can't remember the name of this guy. The really tall, big dude. He was one of the murderers. I can't remember his name. He was so creepy, man. Like just his whole presence, the way he acted was so good.
I can't remember the.
Oh man, don't want to say anymore in case folk are gonna watch it. But yeah, honestly, I was just give me the creeps watching
incredible.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I could talk about shows for ages. So let's move on.
Right.
If you were gonna cast any other game, what would it be? One you don't already cast, obviously.
I guess Halo. I never did get the opportunity to cast Halo, and that's kind of like one that I would love to have a crack at being able to do Halo 3. Because I think, that was a game that I knew so well in and out. I mean, that was the game I knew the best ever at the time. And so I think I would love to go back and have the opportunity to do that.
Cast that.
If I could have gotten in on casting Halo 3 early on, that would have been really cool, but that would be the only one. Otherwise, I'm doing the games that I really want to do, like the games I really care about, the games I really like. I'm pretty much involved in the ones I want to be with.
See, Halo 3 is probably the one I've spent the most time playing, but it was on the 360. So, again, I was more of like a controller player when I was playing first persons. And then when people were playing CSGO or even going into Valorant, I really struggled because I feel like with Halo 3, if you got shot, your shield would regen. You got away with a lot, making mistakes. Whereas in Valorant or CS:GO, you're you just poke your elbow out and you're shot dead. And I'm like, what just happened? Again, it's probably just my boomer head that I can't really comprehend it. But that was the main difference for me for those games.
I feel you, dude. I totally feel you. It was when I first started playing Counter-Strike, I was actually kind of against it, but all my friends were playing it, and Call of Duty as well. And I was kind of like, and then I kind of fell in love with them over time, but it took a while. It took a while to get used to them. I mean, those arena shooters are pretty fun because there is a little bit of forgiveness in it. But at the end of the day, I have kind of just enjoyed both of them for what they are. Yeah,
there's also BR battles. I think I spent quite a lot of time doing that. The BR was just the gun whenever you were playing Halo.
Oh yeah, that you had to be good with, or there was no hope.
Yeah, you're dead. That's it. Favorite fast food?
Favorite fast food? Ooh, That's a good one. I haven't been asked that before. Great question. Whoever came up with that, high five. Oh, God. Taco Bell?
Oh, Taco Bell. They actually makes us seem like we're like some backward country town. We just got a Taco Bell like in our city like recently. So I haven't tried it though. I haven't tried it, so.
Oh, what? Do yourself a favor and
get it tried.
Definitely get in that.
So what's like your typical order? Give me some tips.
Well, for me, I'm pretty basic. I mean, I like just the regulars, like soft shell taco with some sour cream and that, like a taco supreme or whatever.
Okay.
Otherwise, the like a chalupa is quite good. They have the fried shell.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good.
It's like in American American sitcoms and stuff like that. They often just talk about like it's like a food you go to eat whenever you're like drunk or like whatever. Like, there's a lot of people do it when they're hungover. Maybe I'm not sure, but there's a couple that make jokes about like, oh yeah, I went to Taco Bell and I was drunk. And I was like, is that a thing? I don't know.
Totally normal. Taco Bell and McDonald's.
Yeah.
Very common when you're drunk. Like, many runs were made to those places when you'd find the sober driver and be like, we're going to Taco Bell.
I like that. That's good.
Very normal in America. Yeah.
Okay, this one might be controversial, but favorite caster to work with?
Oh, that's hard. That's really hard because
you can name a few. Let's be generous here instead of just giving
one
favorite.
I'll go Tasteless, of course. He's just incredible. On top of being an amazing broadcaster, he's also one of my closest friends. And Matrim, he's the caster I do a lot of international PUBG with.
Oh, cool.
He's fantastic. Just an amazing play-by-play caster. Porosaurus is another good caster from America who does a lot of work with me online and has been become one of my really, really good friends on top of it. So, yeah, let's go with that. Those guys are great.
That's good. That's a good one.
I love them.
Here's a good one. The worst video game you've ever played?
Oh my God, these are great questions. By the way, I've played some really fucking bad video games. I even tried to play that stupid ET game on Atari just to see what that was about.
That was a Netflix documentary I watched as well, actually, not long ago. It was like I can't remember what it was called, but it was like a history of video games almost, and they went through like how they all came about, and they spoke about that, and I never really heard of it, and then saw like how bad it actually was, and oh my God, it was a hideous game.
It's horrendous. I'm trying to think of like a game that is actually somewhat popular. That's the worst game I've ever played.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is actually a question I think I've asked almost everybody that I've podcasted with, and some people will name games I've never even heard of, and you Google it, and you're like, oh my God, this got released to like the general public.
I mean, there's so many bad video games I can think about in the early console games that's where a lot of my thoughts go towards. Like some of those shitty platformers that were just awful.
Yeah, like ones that went with movies and stuff.
I'm trying to think more recent, like games that people like that I can't stand. I hate GTA 5. There you go. I don't like GTA 5.
Oh, that's a big one. Wow. Okay.
Can't stand it.
Not at all.
Stand it. Can't stand Red Dead.
What about other like GTAs? Did you ever play like any of them? No.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I played 1 and 2. I mean, I played the original.
The originals.
When they were top down, and they were kind of fun when you were a kid. You're like 12, and you're like, oh, I'm blowing cars up, and I'm running people over. But like now, it's like, it's just boring to me. I don't really care for Cyberpunk much either. For example, I don't think it's a bad game. I'm gonna say this: I don't think it's actually a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. But I can't get into them, and I can't do GTA. I can't do some of these open world things. Yeah, I think they're terrible.
What about
I think they're terrible.
What about like some of these remakes? Like Command and Conquer or like stuff like that. Have you played any of those or been a fan of any of them, or just not?
No. I don't mind it because I like that they're reskinning the games to make them look better.
Yep.
But I went back and played Red Alert again, and I was like, oh fuck, this game's terrible. Wow, I loved this as a kid, and this is really bad. StarCraft Brood War is still amazing. That game is always going to be amazing for what it is, and remastered is just a nice coat of paint on a great game.
Yeah.
And that'll never change because of what that game is. But Red Alert is bad. There's some fundamental problems with
just awful. Game. I did actually watch I think it was an Artosis one. Yeah, it was. And honestly, like, it was so funny. I almost, like, couldn't catch my breath. It was like, I think he'd clipped it and put it online, and he was playing against somebody, and he basically had rushed the guy, and then the guy was like running over what guys he had left with his harvester, and he obviously was just losing his mind, and I was just in tears laughing, but just like, I remember this as a kid just hating this. It's just like, this
Yeah, it
would
was
do my head in.
ridiculous. No, there was some dumb stuff you could do in those games that was like the original Command and Conquer when the engineers could capture like any building. At least they fixed that in Red Alert, where it was like the building had to be in that red critical state of damage before you could capture it.
That's right. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
It's really fucking bad. Man. Like really, really bad.
But back then, it was like the most innovative thing the world's ever seen. It was just like, it was crazy.
Yes.
So what about like mainstream games? I know competitive games that you're just like, I'll never watch this. I just like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like Fortnite or anything like that. Not saying specifically that.
Yeah, I just don't get the building aspect of Fortnite, so I can't watch it. I don't hate the game by any. Well, I do hate the game, but not like I don't hate on people who like the game. I think it's perfectly fine. I think it's actually a fascinating game if you understand it. I just don't have the time or the patience to learn that one. I used to be big into Minecraft, but I can't do it anymore. Like when Minecraft first came out, I was like, "Holy shit, this is the game."
This is it.
And now I'm just like, it's just too much now. I loved Minecraft when it was simple and very Lego-y, for lack of a better term, but now it's too much. There's always leveling and you gotta make weird bookshelves and shit. I fucking don't know.
Yeah, I don't. That's a game I never really got into. Like my little brother used to play it quite a lot, and when people would make like, I occasionally see clips of people making like a portrait of somebody or like a world, like they'd recreate like a city from Lord of the Rings or something like that. That's like the only time I'd really like see it appear in my feed. But apart from that, I've never really spent too much time on it. So.
Don't bother.
Okay, and the last question I've got is, where'd your username come from?
Oh, okay. So, my original username was Blink. Back when I was like competitive X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, because I thought that was like a cool pilot name. But I didn't like that anymore, and I also really liked Blink 182. That's actually kind of where it came from.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah. So I didn't like that, and so. I was trying to come up with a new one, and it just kind of hit me at one point. I really liked the word, just the way it comes off the tongue. Paper thin is kind of fun to say, and also, like the way I think about it is, like we have a saying where it's like the difference between winning and losing is paper thin, right? So you're talking about like that fine line between winning and losing. I always kind of thought that was like the way I like to think about games is trying to always eke out every advantage possible, and that's like the paper thin.
That's really cool.
Line of that.
Yeah, I like that actually. I mean, that's one thing. It's quite funny hearing people's like, "Where'd you come from?" That username. A couple of them have like, "Oh, it just was like a random name generator," or it's like it's a play on my last name or something like that. You know, it's like some of them are really good, but yeah, it's quite a good one. I like that one.
Yeah, thanks.
So, just to finish off, I like to sort of give back a little bit to the community. So like what I'd like to do is if you were to give somebody advice on maybe following in like your footsteps in esports or trying to become a caster, what kind of advice would you give them?
So first of all, never pass up opportunities. Don't be afraid to take risks. Sometimes you're gonna fail. Sometimes you're gonna fail right on your face, but you will regret it if you don't at least try. I'd say taking risks was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Taking big ass risks, best thing I ever did. For casting, get good at public speaking first and foremost. Like learn how to give speeches. Learn how to. That's the very basic part of what you do. Get good at your voice. Work on your voice. Not just singing. Singing helps, but also like learning how to talk properly, so you don't throw out your voice. That's another thing people don't realize. If you're not talking properly, you will eventually destroy your voice. So yeah, the very like fundamentals of these things, and just it has to be something you love too. Don't get into casting because you think it's cool to be on camera or something. That you will fail. You will fail
You'll
miserably.
burn out.
You have to care. Because it is long, days of watching. Today, for example, I did 6 hours of Valorant, and you cannot do that unless you really like it. You will fall asleep.
That's really good. No, I think that's a good point to finish on. So, I mean, I feel like I'm being pretty bad because it must be like 2 a.m. there with you now, is it?
Oh, it's fine, dude. Don't worry about it. I'm gonna be up for another like 2 or 3 hours at least. Don't worry.
Yeah.
I'm a night person now.
Yeah, man, it's the same. I mean, just now it's like people here are like furloughed and things like that. So now I've got into the bad habit of trying to like keep my sleeping pattern good, but in no way is it happening. So yeah.
I feel you, dude. I really do.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time out to speak to us, dude. And if you want to tell people like where else they can find you and stuff, just now I'll obviously link it into like YouTube and everything else as well.
Sure. Yeah. Everything is Paperthin here, all one word. So Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch. Those are the 4 big ones that I really use. Is all Paperthin here, all one word. So at Paperthin here on Twitter and all that. It's twitch.tv/Paperthin here. I've officially branded that. Like, you remember the old OxyClean guy? He's like, Billy Mays here. I always liked that. I thought it was really funny. So that's kind of how I often lead into my broadcast with Paperthin here. I think it's like it's kind of a cheeky throwback to that.
It's actually tough though now. I know there's like those like platforms that you can actually type in your name and it tells you if it's free over everything, because like it is actually very difficult to find something that's free on everything. You have to be so specific now, you know? So, but yeah. No, that's perfect. I'll stick all that stuff up anyway so folk can find you.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening, guys. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like and subscribe. It really helps me and the channel out a lot. And it also keeps you up to date with all the new guests too. Cheers. See ya.